puzzle pieces together. Sometimes you'll get a really well-made bootleg that it's really hard to recognize that that's what it is. In a lot of cases, you'll get stuff that you're really not completely certain about one way or another. Usually you go with the preponderance of the evidence, and there are a number of things that you can check for that evidence. One is print quality. There may be a few things that come out like this disc that have really good print quality, and we're seeing it happen more with the DVDs because they make more money off of them. They make the DVD for $1 and sell it for as much as they do. But in a lot of cases, like a Pokemon toy or a wind-up robot of some kind, or like you had mentioned, the really pretty, beautiful model that may be a bootleg, take a look at the packaging. The print quality on it should be at least as good as everything around it. And that's something that you learn by experience, to take a look. If you could even take your DVD copy that you know is a good one of whatever, carry it around with you, start comparing it to things on the table, and you'll discover that some of the print quality of some of these items starts to make you feel like your eyes are a little bit out of focus, or maybe you need glasses. Sometimes they'll just be a little fuzzy.
The edges aren't always hard.
The edges are not always correct. Another thing that goes along with the edges not always being correct is the fact that Pokemon loves its characters because they're feeding all of its company members. Nintendo wants its Pokemon to look good. Therefore, I look very much askance at the little vending machine cards I have where Charizard's head is cut off. They don't do that to their own characters. Or if you see a print, a scroll is a very good example, where you may see a scroll where one of the Sailor Scouts is cut off on the side. A company will not willingly do that to their copyrighted character. That character is their baby. Another thing you'll see with scrolls very frequently is that they have often copied the art from art books. Because they tend to do it sloppily and on lighted machines, frequently the scroll will show a faint outline of whatever picture was on the opposite side of the page. Copyrights. Everything should have a copyright on it. It doesn't matter how small it is. One thing that I have caught in our dealer's room and forced dealers to remove from their tables, and one thing to keep an eye out because they brought them back the next year and we made them take them away again, is pins. Little anime character pins. If you see a Totoro, somewhere in the very tiny 1 millimeter of space around him, or somewhere on the back of it, there is going to be either a printed or raised copyright, even if it's 3 letters and a copyright sign. It may be a little copyright sign, SNK, but something like that must be on the piece. I have a little plastic Pokemon toy that if you hit a button, it makes a spinning top pop out and spin around. That spinning top is that big. On the front of it, the vast majority of that space is taken up by an image. But there's a little rim around it that is thinner than this fingernail's edge, and in that rim around it is a copyright on the spinning top itself. Sometimes things are just obviously wrong. One of the things that I have in my bootleg box that I find hysterical is something that I bought at a local game shop. I was kind of curious because I thought I had missed a release of something. It was Pokemon Crystal, and it had characters on the front that I hadn't seen before. And I went, did I miss something? I went ahead and I bought it. And I plugged it into my Game Boy cartridge, and when you turn it on, what you get is a very badly calibrated and very pixelated Mario jumping game where Mario jumps on mushrooms. And unfortunately, because the controls are about 3 seconds behind whatever you move, Mario quickly dies. And I think that's probably my favorite bootleg item that I have in that box. And it was very funny because I brought it back to the game store and I said, where did this come from? And they said, we don't know. We've never seen that before in our life. Well, I have this receipt. That must be for something else. We've never seen that before in our lives. I'm like, when I just show it to you and I ask you where it came from, and you give me that answer back, I think you knew that you had something bad. So
you can trade in DVDs to like a GameStop or anything like that.
Yeah. And I do not know, I would think it probably varies from GameStop to GameStop how well trained the employees are to recognize and pull junk out or not accept
Even
it
when
back.
Media Play was around, one day a guy returned the series, but he put the packaging with the bootleg and just glued the UPC.
Nice. Very nice.
Another thing to be really careful, and not DVDs or anything, CDs. There are so many bootleg CDs,
Yes.
and they are almost impossible to
Again,
tell.
they're getting better and better.
It's well, and I mean, this was probably, I'm looking, 10 years ago at least almost. But they, it's like you buy them and you think, oh, I found it for $5,
Yeah.
and and then not
That's
until
a
later you
very good
realize,
bad
wow,
sign.
Sanmei and I can't remember the other company, the other big company, but if you see these names on it, it's like you got to realize these are coming out of China or Taiwan or someplace like that,
Yeah,
and
Sanmei is a really
they're
big
rip-offs.
contributor.
Well, they don't even put their logo on the CDs anymore.
Nice.
I think one thing that's important to notice is that the issue of bootleg CDs is pretty much moot these days because you can go to a bunch of different sites online and download, not MP3, but lossless compression like
Yes.
Ape or Wave or something, and you can just decompress it and make your own CDs. So bootleg CDs are pretty much a moot issue.
They are still out there, they still
Oh, I know
exist,
they're
as
out
long
there.
as they are, and as long as someone is selling them, they are not a moot point.
Well,
The other thing is, speaking of things being available, you can actually buy items off of iTunes Japan now, because some intermediaries like JList, which has items that are not suitable for minors, so if you happen to go there, please go there and
Yeah.
choose 18 and under. Yeah, and they sell the cards, the pre-charged cards for iTunes Japan, so that you have basically an on-hand credit card where you can buy a song from iTunes Japan the same as you would buy a song from iTunes US. That's a very good way to make music more accessible to you without going the pirate route. And I would also note that whether it's Japanese songs or American songs, I think someone that is stealing music and burning it onto CDs is still stealing, no matter where it's from.
Here's a good thought too, as far as like just bootleg to real items. The fact that the bootlegs would have absolutely no value whatsoever, so you're paying money for something that has no value.
That is something I was
Where if
thinking
you actually
of
buy the authentic,
here,
you
yeah.
actually have something that has an actual resale value.
Absolutely. Our lady who's starting collections back here, that's the first thing that I thought when you said that earlier, and I'm glad that you mentioned it so it came back to mind. Collectibles markets have been extremely unstable in the US. Anime collectibles markets can be even more unstable because it's in some cases hard to value them. In some cases our economy will tank and something you had that was worth $300 is going to be worth $30 for a while. If you have a bootleg, it's worth $0 no matter what. If you have something that was worth $300 and now it's worth $30, give it a couple years and it'll be back up at $300 again.
Sailor Moon.
Sailor Moon, yes. I have some of the craziest, weirdest things in my house, but one thing that I have is a gas station sign from Shell Japan that is, it's a banner that goes from about there to about there that has the Lupin characters chasing each other. That was a promotional thing there. And I got that at Expo in a charity auction at one point for like $150, and it's like, if I tried to sell that right now, I might get $30 for it because we're a little pinched right now. The economy's not doing all that well. But I know, but I know that if I keep an eye away, I love it. I mean, it's because it's just a strange thing to have, and I like having really weird things. But if I keep it for a while, it will have that value again when our economy recovers.
Well, I just eBayed off Sailor Moon Season 1 and got $150 for it.
And that's actually on the low end. I've seen it on Amazon for over $200.
Yeah.
But we're not going to say that and make you feel bad.
I already know.
I'm just,
Well, it was used, watched a couple times.
Awesome.